This show contains frank discussions about sexuality and humans and other animals. We want to make sure you're comfortable with that before you listen. Enjoy.
Did you get the
Yes, Gertrude, can you hear us?
Yeah, I keep dropping the earpiece. I'm sorry. Did you get the semen streaming out?
Woo. Like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like a pot of gold.
Do you mind just starting the tour over?
Yeah. Can you take it from the top for us?
All right.
Thank you.
A little trigger warning. There'll be a lot of reference to mounting in this tour. My name is Dr. Gertrude Glossip. My particular thing is zoo walks, where we celebrate the marvelous diversity that exists in the animal world. I am the alter ego of septuagenarian long-term gay activist Will Sergeant OAM, that's Order of Australia Medal, which he received last year for his lifetime service to the South Australian rainbow community. It's very tropical all around us, and one really has the feeling one could be in the jungle right here at lovely Adelaide Zoo, which is just over 160 years old. We only have to look at the natural world to see the diversity is enormous. And in that regard, I've been very much assisted by that wonderful tome by Bruce Badgermill, Biological Exuberance, which details some of this wonderful diversity in the animal world. I've really never had to look further. In Bruce's book, he does actually focus on the eastern grey kangaroo. The breeding system is polygamous, so multiple partners, and you'll see affectionate behaviour such as licking, nibbling, raking and mounting. And also in this species, you'll see examples of intersex where some animals have penis and pouch, mammary gland and testes. Before we move off, I just want to touch on the iconic animal, the koala. The whole world loves koalas, don't they? Something I find really quite tantalising about female koalas. They will mount each other, but while they're mounting, they also exhibit signs of intense sexual arousal. And this is a technical term, it's called bellowing. And bellowing is described like this by Mr. Badgermill: rasping, growling, wheezing, grunting, rumbling, and braying, which sounds very exciting, don't you think? Right. So now here we are, a lovely part of the zoo. There's a wonderful old structure here, probably I think from the early 20th century or late 19th century, and it used to house the elephants. So I thought we would say a couple of things about elephants. Males do mount each other, and there's evidence of kissing with their trunks, and they frolic with erection. And here's a statistic. If you remember nothing else today, I want you to remember this: the size for female elephants' engorged clitoris. It's 17 inches or 43 centimetres. Imagine that. Let's talk about the cassowary. Beautiful birds, and they're such striking birds, aren't they? It is on the cover of his wonderful book, Biological Exuberance. It's a striking cover. The cassowary is native, of course, to New Guinea and Northern Australia. Many New Guinean people view the cassowary androgynous, in fact having characteristics of both male and female. They're almost beyond gender. You will see same-sex mounting. I promise you, mounting at every stop, haven't I? Between female baboons and also between male baboons. Now, I've got a term that I love amongst baboons. It's called diddling. Don't know whether you've heard of diddling. It is genital and scrotum fondling between males and touching and pulling of the penis. Males will also embrace, kiss, lick and nibble and nuzzle penises, groin and thighs, and they will also insert fingers into the anus of another male. Oh, should I have done a trigger warning before my walk so people would know that there was going to be some very explicit sexual detail? I must say, I have done family walks. Now, the family walk I did at Dublin.
Hello, I'm Owen Ever.
I'm Laine Kaplan-Levinson, and from Double Double, this is a field guide to gay animals, a podcast about queerness in the natural world.
Koalas are gay as fuck. Gertrude, what a delight.
So good. I wish we could take everyone we talk to in this series on Gertrude's wild sex zoo tour.
Yes.
We could all wear, I don't know, like matching pearls to clutch.
Okay, field guide merch idea number 61.
Yes.
But really, we gotta give it up for queens of a certain age. Elders honoring elders.
Well, to be fair, Gertrude Glossip, the drag persona, was born in the 90s, so...
Okay, correct, yes. But she's the alter ego of Will Sergeant, who was part of the first Adelaide Pride March in 1973. Picture it, like 100 Aussies horny for liberation, pink triangles, tiny shorts, and big beglittered block letters that read Gay Pride.
That's just what this country needs. A cock in a frock on a rock.
Oh, I can picture it. The hair was flowing, the polyester. God, I wonder when Bruce Bagamill's first Pride was.
Yeah, he was born around 1963.
1963-ish.
Exactly. Gay time. Which means that when he started his research in 1990, he was about 27.
And now, Biological Exuberance is being honored by a drag queen sex tour at the zoo.
And 2 gay nerds with a podcast.
That's when you really know you've made it. I'm talking about the zoo tour.
Oh, I know. But look, I have the book right here.
Oh, and you always have the book right here.
True. But check out our cover girl, this doofy bird, the cassowary, which is like a perfect drag name, right?
Yes.
Cassowary. I mean, look at those Betty Davis eyes.
I mean, this is a brilliantly flamboyant bird. Blue head, red neck, bony dome, who honestly is terrifying looking. I mean, she seems like she's about to kill me and hide my body, but not until after she's had her way with me.
Okay, damn. That took a twisted turn, which honestly, I'm here for it. And yeah, they have been known to fuck up a human.
See?
One of the most dangerous birds on the planet. This beautiful protector. It's as if it's guarding sacred knowledge.
Well, it is. When Biological Exuberance was published in 1999, it broke new ground as this in-depth gay animal tome. At that time, the world was full of gay animals.
As always.
But not full of people who knew about them or wanted to even acknowledge their existence.
But Biological Exuberance helped change that. Because then, in 2004, Joan Roughgarten published Evolution's Rainbow.
And in 2006, Homosexual Behavior in Animals from Paul Vasey came out.
And to Bruce's credit, both books heavily cite him, as do hundreds of other academic articles, papers, and studies.
It's impossible to overstate the role Bruce has played in bringing gay animals into the public consciousness.
Ushering in a gay animal renaissance.
Which we're a part of.
Yes.
Throughout our field guide, we've made gay animal observations.
In the wild.
We've read new publications.
That aren't homophobic.
Yes, that. And we've even encountered an Irish gay animal rights campaign.
Hashtag Save Benji, hashtag gay animal rights, hashtag animals come out.
But of course, gay animals have always been out. And that's the paradox, right? Like, they've always been mounting and bellowing and diddling outside of our terms or labels or paradigms. They're pretty much as out can be.
In our final episode of this season, can you believe it?
No.
We're honoring the legacy of Biological Exuberance. And we'll explore what it feels like to be part of this vast and intricately connected world, with some scholars who are carrying the biologically exuberant torch.
So?
Let's get lit. I can't believe you made me say that. now that AG1 is a field guide partner, I have the perfect supplement to support me while I'm enjoying the great outdoors with my fellow gay animals. That's because AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. If you want to take ownership over your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/fieldguide. That's drinkag1.com/fieldguide. Check it out.
Let me see. I might have the sketch. There it is. It's a basically fairly loose pencil sketch of two muskox. And I think the behavior that they're doing is called legging. One is extending his foreleg out toward another, and it's one of their behaviors to initiate courtship between animals.
I'm just curious, are you the first person to draw muskox gay courtship behavior? Is that the only draw? Is that the first drawing of that?
It probably is, yeah. I'm John Megahan, and I was the illustrator for Biological Exuberance.
Talking to John is a big deal for us. We 100% adore these drawings. If you've seen any images related to this podcast, you've seen his illustrations of gay animal sex.
These drawings are accurate and informative, and at the same time bring so much personality and expression to the animals. Turns out, John was basically destined to do this.
I've drawn animals ever since I was a little kid. And for me, doing pen and ink drawings was just natural. Everything I studied, I would turn it into a drawing somehow. Whether it was a description of an animal, I would draw the animal and label it and stuff. And then I could close my eyes and visualize the thing, and I would learn it.
After earning degrees in both biology and art in the early 90s, John decided to merge the two and become a scientific illustrator.
And so stupidly, I just jumped into it feet first and started walking the halls of Oregon State and University of Oregon, just knocking on professors' doors and asking, do you need any drawings? And it started getting noticed.
In 1996, he accepted a position at the University of Michigan's Museum of Zoology.
Not too long after that, I got a call from St. Martin's Press.
The editors of St. Martin's Press were about to publish a groundbreaking work of scientific nonfiction, a work of gay significance. Now, when it came to pioneering works by gay authors, they knew what they were doing, having recently published a book about HIV in America called And the Band Played On. This book made its author both a celebrity and a pariah, so the editors understood what was at stake.
Basically, they said they had a project they wanted me to work on, and it was a substantial project of probably a couple of hundred illustrations. It was all on the hush-hush at the time. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and stuff that I wouldn't say anything about the project while we were working on it.
Was that surprising to you? Like hearing that there was the secrecy around it or that they didn't want you to talk about it?
Yeah. It surprised me at the time. I never expected anybody to call me with something like that. They would rather the author tell me what the project was about, and that if I agreed to work on the project, that I had to keep it very quiet until it was done. And they led me to Bruce.
Bruce, as in Bruce Bagamel, Daddy Bruce. At this point, he was fully immersed in his magnum opus, Biological Exuberance, and was on the prowl for the perfect illustrator.
Right. Then Bruce called me, might have been the same day, in fact. He was very professional, extremely professional, very polite, very eloquent, really quite businesslike. They had selected maybe 4 or 5 different illustrators, and we were each given a couple of things to draw.
What did you have to draw?
I drew a drawing of muskox, and the other one was mountain goat, I think. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
And with hardly any knowledge of what this large-scale, top-secret job would be, John submitted his images and waited.
And I was lucky enough to be the one chosen.
As the editors from St. Martin's Press had hinted at, this was no small assignment. Through illustrations, John would bring biological exuberance to life for Bruce, and Bruce would bring a world of queerness in the animal queendom to life for John. Once he got the job, he was let in on the details.
He described the book to me, and I was floored by it. I had my socks knocked off, practically. I had no idea. Well, every time we would talk on the phone, it'd be like him describing something and me going, "You got to be kidding. That's amazing." He would tell me the story of what the animals did or the behaviors and stuff. And all these things were completely unknown to me, totally new, and blew my mind all over again. And the whole project went like that. So it was a whole new world. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. Let's do it.
John got to work, drawing a couple hundred illustrations, from muskox to mountain goats to some of his favorites.
The bonobo and common chimpanzees, I was happy with those. And this one of a transgendered velvet deer, Bruce really liked that one. And it's one of the ones I'm happy with.
Well, your hedgehogs are absolutely delightful.
Oh, thank you. I was doing those here at the Museum of Zoology on some spare time that I had. And I remember it was real quiet in my office, and I was totally focused on doing those drawings. And a graduate student, a gal, came walking in and was looking over my shoulder. I didn't even know she was there. And she spoke up just out of the blue, scared the heck out of me, and said, is that hedgehog sticking its nose up the other one's butt? And I was just startled. I jumped and I turned around, and because of my non-disclosure agreement, I couldn't say anything. And I couldn't tell her why I was doing this drawing of hedgehogs in this mating process.
You mentioned that it did surprise you when they said, "We want you to work on this project, but you can't talk about it."
Yeah.
Did you inquire at all as to why? Why is this something that has an NDA attached to it?
You know, there was political and cultural things that could be totally shifted by this book. The fact that homosexuality is part of nature, and at the time, you had lots of people who would say that it's an aberrant behavior and it's not a natural thing. And this book turned all that around.
What they were doing was truly special. I mean, the content was so radical, it required an NDA. Plus, the scope and scale of the research was impressive. And for John, there was the particular challenge of making illustrations with hardly any direct reference images, because, well, gay animal sex just hadn't been visually documented.
We would just have to sort of imagine the scene and find photos of animals in somewhat similar positions, if you could, and sort of readapt and rearrange things. I got a sense of what illustrators from several hundred years ago used to go through. The old manuscripts from like medieval times that monks did, they were given a verbal description like of an elephant, and they were told it had a big trunk, big ears, and was about the size of a house, so they had to invent something. That's what I felt like half the time doing this.
For over 2 years, they worked together on these illustrations, making the previously invisible visible, a major undertaking accomplished by a powerful collaboration between John, Bruce, and
Kinko's. We didn't have any email in those days, so everything was done by fax back and forth. I'd have to run down to the Kinko's down the street, fax a bunch of things off, and then he would fax to the Kinko's, and I had to run down to the Kinko's again, get the faxes, and run back and do more drawings, and it was just crazy. It was just nuts.
Wow. Do you have any more of those faxes just like magically on hand?
Yeah, I could only find a couple from Bruce to me.
Oh my gosh, can you read it?
Sorry I didn't get back to you sooner about the sketches. John, thanks for the latest sketches. Sorry for not getting back sooner on these. I like all of the drawings very much, especially the hammerhead, which is really beautiful. Fat-tailed gun art looks a little too heavy around the shoulders. Excellent. My only suggestion would be to reverse the image. I'm faxing some additional photos of this species, which I like better for expression. Also, the moose still doesn't look quite right. Seals, I just want to verify that the northern fur seal you've drawn is a female. I really like the compositions you're coming up with in the double portrait. Preparing a checklist of the species, which will help you keep track of the drawing. Keep up the good work. Best, Bruce.
Okay, so we've encountered Bruce's legacy many times over the course of the series, but this is definitely the closest we've gotten to Bruce himself.
Did you ever meet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think 2 or 3 times. We met usually in Seattle, and we'd go have lunch and talk over things.
Could you describe Bruce?
Handsome guy.
I knew it.
Very nice, personable, always friendly. Always positive.
Absolute dreamboat. What more could you possibly want? Encouragement? Patience?
Very encouraging and patient with me. There were so many corrections we had to do and so much time pressure we were under. I'm amazed that he didn't, start going after me on some things, but he was always very nice and courteous and kind about things. It was great working with him.
And beyond being positive, courteous, and encouraging, Bruce's passion and ambition for this project also left an impression on John.
This project was a special one. Because of that, I wanted to preserve it if I could. So that's why I made the boxes for them, contain everything in one spot. I have sketch after sketch here. And I also have all the original final drawings. I'll show you.
At this point, John pulled out a handmade wooden box full of all the sketches from the book.
Yeah, this is the rifle bird.
Lined up perfectly, all in a row.
This is the one I'm holding up now is harbor seal courtship behavior.
It's amazing. Just curious, the way that you have meticulously kept an archive of all of these drawings and your different boxes and your different organizational systems, is this something you do for every project that you've worked on, or is this something that is particular to Biological Exuberance?
When we did it, I didn't know if it would have any effects on culture or society at all. I figured scientists would, be a captive audience, but I didn't know where it would go from there. And I just thought it was a big special project that I had done that I felt really good about. But since then, it's gone on to have a fair amount of impact.
The book has been making the rounds, influencing artists, authors, ecologists, and scientists, showing up in all sorts of places, including most recently in a big study that was released last year in the science publication Nature, called The Evolution of Same-Sex Sexual Behavior in Mammals. Biological Exuberance is listed as the first footnote.
And it transcended science. There have even been pop culture celebrity cameos.
Ricky Gervais used it in one of his comedy routines.
Can we have the first slide, please?
That was a surprise.
Right. I have not faked this, okay? This is absolutely real, I swear. 2 male stump-tail macaques in mutual fellatio. See what I mean now about the bits David Attenborough left out?
Yeah, it's probably the best advertising the book ever got.
But that wasn't its only significant public appearance.
I do know that this book went in front of the Supreme Court. Bruce sent me a message saying that had happened.
The court voted 6-3 to strike down a Texas state law banning sodomy,
making it the single most important legal advance ever for homosexuals in America.
In 2003, Biological Exuberance made a small appearance in the landmark Supreme Court case Lawrence v. Texas. In an amicus brief, the book is cited as evidence that homosexuality is, in fact, not a crime against nature, which is a huge win for sodomites and a very impressive supporting role for Bruce.
I was very proud of that. I can remember he was delighted by that.
On top of the celebrity fuss and the courtroom glory, the book itself received all kinds of accolades.
He sent me probably 2 or 3 batches of reviews of it.
Biological Exuberance is a welcome antidote to the deluge of zoological research that equates sex with reproduction.
For anyone who has ever doubted the naturalness of homosexual, bisexual, or transgendered behaviors, this remarkable book will surely lay those doubts to rest.
Pretty much all of it was positive, and he seemed thrilled by that.
It is a landmark in the literature of science.
But this public praise isn't the complete story. His theory was criticized for being unscientific and drawing from too many sources.
But instead, he rolls together an extraordinary amalgam of concepts, ranging in their relevance, from the incomprehensible through the unspecified to the inexplicable.
He might have gotten much more criticism. The people who fight against this kind of thing, who knows what he received. And he's not the kind of person that would have told me, if he was getting negative or even threatening comments and stuff. He wouldn't convey that to me.
We'll probably never know the extent of this book's reception or what Bruce felt after its publication. I'm sure he was exhausted, and I hope he felt deeply accomplished.
Though we get the sense that something shifted for Bruce. John told us a second book was in the works, but it never materialized.
It would have gone on to other groups of animals. I think he was looking at reptiles, amphibians, a variety of other animals, including invertebrates and marine creatures as well. And I was hoping that would come about, but it never did.
Do you know why?
Don't know why.
Wow.
When was the last time you spoke with Bruce?
Probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I think now. I knew he went up to Canada, and I don't quite know whether he was doing research or if he was teaching up there. But that's about all I know, really. I hope he's doing well. And, I wish him all the best.
I just want to sit in the speculative space of Bruce having published a second book. Can you imagine? Amorous mating balls of male garter snakes, parthenogenic whiptail lizards, gay frogs.
And toads.
Basically, our autobiography.
Yes. It's beautiful to imagine that book. And, also sad that it doesn't exist. I'm thinking of this Portuguese word that I love, saudade. It means a longing for something that you maybe never even knew or had, but still feel a sense of melancholy and nostalgia for.
Saudade. Oof, that's beautiful. And yeah, I feel that untethered mournfulness. Honestly, this gets to a feeling much bigger than sadness for a book about gay animals I'll never get to read. I also have a larger anxiety about all the gay animals I'll never get to meet out in the world, considering how much it's changing. And confession, I also have a personal sadness about possibly never getting to meet and thank Daddy Bruce.
But it's not for lack of trying. We did all the things to try and contact Bruce. Reached out to his publisher, sent emails to whatever addresses we could get our hands on.
Wrote letters, talked to anyone we could who knew him.
Like John Megahan.
But still, no Bruce.
Which leaves us with two large and looming questions. What's become of our search for Bruce's legacy? And what is our relationship to this vast, transforming world?
Okay, spoiler alert, we have some feelings about these questions. So, yeah, coming up, we'll put the feel in field guide.
You know I love that.
I know you love that. We'll discuss the elusive Bruce.
I'm sorry that he's so hard to find.
And what it means to be a queer creature on a changing planet.
When you really understand yourself as rooted and interconnected to every other species that is endangered today, it is an enormous amount of grief.
But also, we'll find our way to wildness.
Stacy, what are you picturing right now?
I'm picturing the illustrations of the hedgehogs that Bagamiel published originally, having all kinds of fun, looking adorable and sweet.
Yep, John Megahan's sapphic hedgehogs.
Just something about the way that he draws the animals. They evoke a real sense of affection. His illustrations are brilliant.
We spoke with Dr. Stacy Alaimo the day after she handed in the manuscript of her fourth book.
My first 3 books were all dealing with the concept of nature, environmental justice, and race and class.
Stacy wrote the first chapter in a book called Queer Ecologies, which we love. And in it, she cites...
Wait for it.
You guessed it.
Biological Exuberance.
Yes, the theory, the catalog, the book.
It's just an incredible book. The fact that Bagamiel has this huge bestiary of all sorts of different species, and whether they've been observed to be transgender, homosexual, whether it was in terms of courtship or pair bonding or parenting, whether it was observed in the wild or in captivity. So then putting sexual and gender diversity into a kind of exuberant vision of biological diversity, where the world is just this, amazingly diverse, beautiful, pleasurable place. I think that vision is really inspiring.
Then, to our surprise, we found out that Stacy got to actually congratulate Bruce.
Let's see, I would say 2015, 2014. So 10 years ago, I emailed him saying that I loved the book and that I wanted to reprint one of the illustrations in my book. And so then he gave me the information about the illustrator, and I wish that I had met him. I would have loved to have talked to him.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm sorry that he's so hard to find.
I know.
Well, maybe he'll hear this podcast.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, where we're all raving about him.
We're all raving. And that is a genuine desire. I do want him to hear this podcast and know how much we cherish him and his work. I hope he does.
Or maybe someone's out there listening who knows him.
Oh my God, a lover? Could you imagine?
That would be so cool.
Yes. Don't be shy.
Season 2, what up?
But also, we totally want to honor any wishes to exist outside the public eye if that is indeed what he wants.
Because last we heard he was alive and well. But for reasons that are his own, he prefers to remain elusive.
Respect.
100%.
As we've seen, there's a queer power in remaining unknowable.
Yes, the queer mystique. And actually, Stacy has a phrase for this mystery. She calls it
eluding capture.
Eluding capture. A dynamic way of thinking about how we don't and might never truly know Bruce the person. And per Stacy's context, for thinking about what we can and can't know about gay animals.
The limits of what we can know as humans are really important in terms of thinking in a kind of multi-species studies vein. We want to know which animals are queer in whatever ways, but then we also need a broader framework in which they're just being themselves and we're not quite sure what they're experiencing, actually.
This speaks to the theme we explored all the way back in the first episode with our dueling timelines. Gay animals being gay animals versus humans trying to understand them.
If your approach to all living beings is we have to understand them in order that we can use them and dominate them, that's a problem.
Which isn't to say stop exploring.
You need curiosity and you need knowledge and then wonder. Those go together really well.
Yes, this is a field guide for
cultivating curiosity.
For embracing change.
For a transforming world.
Yes. That's the other looming question we want to explore. What does it mean to be a queer creature on a changing planet?
It looks so different for everyone.
And Willow Defebaugh is a perfect guide.
So much of my process of healing has been reknitting the fabric between nature and queerness. I think that's what coming out is. I think that's what transition is.
We met up with Willow the day after a launch event for her new book
called The Overview: Meditations on Nature for a World in Transition,
which we obviously fangirled over and got signed.
In addition to being an author, Willow is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Atmos Magazine.
When I was a kid, I even told my parents that one day when I grew up, I wanted to be the editor-in-chief of a nature magazine.
We love to see queer dreams come true. Atmos is a publication about queer ecologies and climate change, guided by Willow's relationship to the natural world.
Everything in nature wants to just become itself, and it wants to grow, and it wants to thrive with exuberance. And that is why all of nature is inherently queer to me, because it is everything just wanting to thrive in its own uniqueness.
And for Willow, examples of transformation, of transition, just like queerness, are everywhere in nature once you start looking.
We think of transformation as something that happens overnight, but in other cases, it is a process of many sheddings.
When I think of transformation in nature, I think of butterflies.
Such a process of becoming, but in the actual practice of it, it's mostly a process of liquefaction and dissolving. I mean, everything they are liquefies in the chrysalis, and everything save for these imaginal discs, which have been with them ever since their larvae stage as caterpillars. And once within the chrysalis, a hormone surge activates them and causes them to grow into their wings and other vital organs. What a beautiful symbol there, that what they were always going to become was always there.
Butterflies aren't the only example that Willow or nature has to offer. There's also the dragonfly.
Dragonflies live as nymphs under the surface of the water. They molt 20 times approximately before they eventually gain their wings and leave the water and begin the rest of their lives flying through the air. It's beautiful little fairies that they are.
Which in many ways is more akin to Willow's own experience.
It wasn't until I really came into my transness specifically that I started to look to nature and the kind of burgeoning field of queer ecology and start to understand more and more that nature is incredibly queer.
Now, these are examples of transition occurring within the beautifully complex design of the natural world.
But if you zoom out, the entire planet is undergoing another kind of change, one that we're all experiencing as our communities and homes begin to look and feel different. It's scary and can be pretty overwhelming.
I think in some ways what we are up against as a species is people's unwillingness to confront the grief that they feel around what our species has authored and what our species is authoring to the rest of the world.
We're absolutely part of climate change. And there's an enormous amount of uncertainty and sadness in that. I mean, I feel it.
Me too. And so does Stacy Alaimo.
Because humans have changed the whole planet so thoroughly, entire ecosystems are collapsing. Species are getting extinct.
When you really understand yourself as rooted and interconnected to every other species that is endangered today, every species that we will see disappear in our lifetimes, it is an enormous amount of grief.
This reminds me of the beautiful word you offered earlier, Laine.
Sadaji.
Sadaji.
Yeah, the longing for something you maybe never even knew.
Yes. And also another word comes to mind. Solastalgia.
Solastalgia.
Which is basically a homesickness for a world that you experience changing. There are so many species on the brink of extinction, gay animal kin included. Marmots, giant tortoises, condors, cranes.
The right whale, the Rice's whale, the rhino, the orangutan.
All of them with their own queer mystique.
The world is not only more queer than one could have imagined, but more surprisingly itself.
The world is not only more queer than one could have imagined, but more surprisingly itself.
The idea means that we will continue to be surprised by all sorts of things that non-human species are doing. There's a joyfulness to this kind of mode of knowing that is open to surprises and allows for other beings to do things that don't fit within our frameworks or expectations because they are living their own lives in their own worlds.
Nature is what she is.
Nature is what she is.
Yes, nature is queer, and also at the same time, it is us imposing a human framework or a way of thinking onto the natural world because nature just is. It's beyond labels. It's the human mind that tries to create labels and put everything in boxes. And there is an aspect of queerness that I think is very feral, and I think it's about reclaiming our sense of wildness, which is this great irony because wildness exists outside the realms of any label.
In so many ways, this queer feralness, this gay wildness that Willow is describing, is actually just nature naturing, is nature being itself. And there's a freedom in that, and a pleasure in it too, which can sometimes feel almost like an act of rebellion.
That's exuberance. Owen, do you want to go outside?
Oh my God, yes! Oh, that sounds so nice.
Let's do it.
Let's GTFO. Oh my God. Oh, I've been waiting for this.
I come back to the word reenchantment.
We all need more beauty.
What a tangle.
Restoring a sense of wonder for the natural
We
world.
all need more of a sense of connection and relationality and being with other creatures.
Hey, look what I brought. Of course I have my binoculars on me.
Reminding people that they are a part of this greater whole and that this whole loves them back.
Pleasure, eroticism, sex, playfulness, love, affection, joy.
We're almost there. We're almost there.
It's opening one's eyes to a sense of wonder about the world around us. It's falling in love with the world.
Finally.
So nice out here. What?
I can't be certain, but I think it's a warbler. I think it's a songbird.
Do you see it?
Come on, over here. Oh, it's so bright.
Oh, it's so bright. Look at that cloud. You kind of look like that cloud.
Is that a swallow? Sounds gay. I'm in. A Field Guide to Gay Animals is a production of Double Double Podcasts from Canadaland. I'm Owen Ever.
And I'm Laine Kaplan-Levinson.
This episode was hosted, written, and produced by us.
It was also produced by Nathan Harrison, Katie Jane Fernelius, and Aviva Lassard.
Sound design and mixing by Hannes Brown.
Our executive producer and editor is Julie Shapiro.
Woohoo! Our commissioning producer is Alan Black.
Our publisher is Jesse Brown.
Our artwork is by Tony Wong, featuring original illustrations from Biological Exuberance, courtesy of John Megahan.
Our theme music is Wolves by Hooray for the Riff Raff, courtesy of None Such Records.
This show was recorded at WWNO Studios in New Orleans. They have a great podcast called Sea Change about the environmental issues facing coastal communities. Check it out if you haven't already. Additional studio and recording support by Josh Wilcox at Brooklyn Podcasting Studio.
Thanks to our additional field guides for this episode, Will Sergeant, aka Gertrude Glossip, John Megahan, Stacy Alaimo, and Willow Defebaugh.
Look out for Stacy's upcoming book, The Abyss at Hand, Aesthetic Encounters in Science, Art, and Literature of Deep-Sea Creatures.
And check out Willow's new book, The Overview, Meditations on Nature for a World in Transition.
Thank you to Nicola van der Wettering, our Adelaide, Australia-based producer. Thank you to Turner Ross, Julie Shapiro, John Green, and David Williams for their voiceover work in this episode.
And thank you, Owen.
Oh, thank you, Laine. Find us on Instagram at A Field Guide to Gay Animals, where you can see the new tattoo I got of one of John Megahan's original gay animal drawings. Go check it out to see which one I chose and where I put it.
I don't know how you chose, but it's such a good one.
And don't forget to call the Field Guide hotline at 504-264-2265. Tell us about your gay animal tattoos.
And what you'd want to hear in a second season.
Yes, so many more gay animals to explore together. Call 504-264-2265. You can listen to A Field Guide early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime.
If you like our show and want the whole animal queendom to know about it, please follow, rate, and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really does make a difference.
It really does.
Thank you so much for listening to the first season of A Field Guide to Gay Animals.
Yes, thank you. We hope to see you out in the animal queendom. And until next time. What does a gay owl say? Whom?
You are a gay owl.
I know. Whom?